أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم.
ثم السلام على آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم الأجمعين إلى يوم الدين. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. صدق الله العظيم. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
So we've been looking at the words of an awesome human being when on the plains of Karbala on the day of Ashura he says inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un ridam bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. I accept what he has intended and I am content with his orders. And I said that the topic of these days that we are here would be in the middle of my chaos there was you, there is Allah. Today I'd like to look at the surah that I begin with in every majlis, which is Surah Al-Duha, and I promise to do that with you. So we're going to look at the understanding of this surah, but we've got to understand this surah is probably one of the most comforting surahs of the Quran. It's like the one that gives you trust in Him. If any time in life you're anxious, any time in life there are issues and you don't know how to resolve them, it is Duha and Inshirah. I call them the comfort zone of the Quran. You know, when you're looking for solace, when you're looking for something, recite these two surahs. They are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Let's look at historically first what happens, okay? So this 93 and 94. Let's see what happens. So the Prophet is so enamored by the fact that he's getting revelation. So Jibreel comes and there is these new ayat of Quran that are coming and he just loves it. I mean, just imagine, you know, it's this conversation he's having with divinity. Maybe I can put it akin to a fact. If you have a young girl here who has just got engaged or she's met the man of her dreams, okay? Now have you seen them on their phones? Even in the middle of majlis, they sneak in a little text, right? Because there is a communication that is, you can see the love coming out of their eyes. And the Prophet is absolutely besotted with Allah. You know, like absolutely besotted. So the revelations are coming, the WhatsApp messages, sorry, my language is coming. You know, all these messages are there. Suddenly, no message. So when these messages come, just imagine for this, he repeats them at night. Now remember, at that time, the houses were not like ours. The walls were pretty thin. And in fact, the walls were low, so everybody in the neighborhood could listen as well. So he's reciting Quran, and they are finding comfort, but they're not understanding what's going on. Imagine. Suddenly a stop. Not one day, not 2 days, 10, 20, some say 30, some say 40 days. and the Prophet is anxious. It's just like you and me. When we follow all these rules of asking for a dua, we say, Ya Allah, when? When? Okay? Or when we're waiting for somebody to call us. You know, you've left so many messages, they've always been close to you, and then suddenly there's nothing, no phone calls, no reply, no nothing, and you have no way of contacting them. You can imagine the wahshat that's in your heart. Can you imagine where the Prophet is now, right? This is where he is. So when you and I have this anxiety in us about something not being answered, and I'll give you a very basic thing that I was telling the children at the children's classes. I told them, ever since I was a child, I wanted to go deep sea diving. So I wanted to see the fish at the bottom of the sea. Since I was 5, I remember reading books about fish and wanting to see the bottom of the sea and the top of the skies. Top of skies was easy, went on a flight and saw the clouds. But bottom of the sea, I went deep sea diving when I was 60. I told them it took 55 years of waiting to go deep sea diving. Hopefully it won't take you that long. But anyway, so you got to understand the waiting. And every time you see a movie or you see some magazine about somebody going deep sea diving, you think, but I asked you, I want to go deep sea diving, okay? So let's look at this. The Prophet is waiting. And now comes Surah Al-Duha. So suddenly now there's a message. Can you imagine? You haven't had these messages and your phone goes ping. Even if you're in the middle of anything, you're going to get up and go and see what that message is about. And there are 11 ayat divided into 4 sections. Are you good? 2, 3, 3, 3. You good? All right. First ayah. وَالضُّحَى. I swear by the early morning light. Not fajr. Duha is that bright light, but it's soothing. It doesn't burn you. It's activity. When I talk to the children, I tell them it's that time when you've got ready for school, you've brushed your teeth, you're having breakfast, you're all ready, you know, with your bag ready to go to school. Wadduha. Now, why does Allah swear? We swear when we're angry. We swear when we want to prove we're right. Or we swear when we're testifying. Agreed? Allah does not do that. The Arabs used to swear to catch your attention. So if they wanted to catch your attention, they would say, I swear by something, and people would stop and listen. Allah does it a bit differently. He uses the subject of what he is swearing by as a prelude to what's going to come. Okay, let me give you an example, which I've done already, but I'll give it again. Suratul Waqiyah. You read Suratul Waqiyah? Suratul Waqiyah, so number 56, ayah 75. It's easier to explain this one. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِئِ النُّجُومِ. I swear by the placement of the stars. What does he say? I swear by the placement of the stars. Then he says, he says, this one is a huge oath. فَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ عَظِيمٌ. This is a huge oath. And then he says, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. So he's saying, I swear by the placement of the stars that this Quran is really honorable. What is he trying to tell me? In the desert, stars were used as guidance. Agreed? So when he's swearing by stars, he's telling me the reason why this Quran is honorable is because it is guidance for you. Do you understand swearing now? Okay. So وَالضُّحَى, I swear by the early morning light. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And I swear by the night when it is quiet. Now what happened? When that revelation stopped, and he stopped repeating at night, one of the things that happened was his neighbors were Jamila and Abu Lahab. They were the neighbors. And now they couldn't hear anything. They could hear something, but not this new stuff. And they saw that he wasn't saying new stuff, so they started taunting him, as did everybody else. So what happened to your God? Where did he go? Oh, he's abandoned you. Now you have nothing clever to say, do you? So there was a lot of taunting going on as well. And now Jibreel comes and says, now let's go over it again. I swear by the early morning light, and I swear by the night when it is still. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا Sajah. Sajah is when it's really quiet and still. Lots of ways to look at it. One way of looking at it is that revelation needs to come, but there needs to be pauses in between as well. You and I cannot overwhelm somebody with our connections. They need some time out as well. Dua sometimes may come immediately. Sometimes it will take its time. And we need to understand the time that the dua takes. So before I go anything further, I got to come and talk about a bit of dua because that relates to us. Okay, so let's see what we call here. Now, when we do dua, when we call upon Allah, it will reveal our deepest desires. It will tell you what your goal is. The dua of the Prophet was, I want to make sure that this responsibility I have been given to help the human being reach his full potential is fulfilled. That means this responsibility Allah has given me, I want it to get there. If you look, everybody has a different aim. I told you that yesterday. I said that we need to have an aim in life. So my aim in life, if I look at my life, is to be able to say to the angel of death when he says, time up, thank you for life. I did my best in leaving the world a better place than what I found it in. Everybody's different. Somebody might say, I want my children to succeed. Somebody will say, all different things. Everybody has a different aim. So the Prophet's aim was for his dua that this was reached. Suddenly, revelation has stopped. Right? So let's look at dua and what it is. What do I do dua for? Dua you do for everything. Allah tells Prophet Musa, Ya Musa, salni kulla ma tahtaju. Ask me for everything. Ask me for the salt you need in your dough. Ask me for the shoelaces on your shoes. Talk to me. Talk to me about absolutely everything. Now the etiquettes of dua, before I go any further. How do I do dua that is bulletproof? Everybody wants a bulletproof dua. Agreed? Right, so you're going to make notes or you're going to listen to me again? You're going to listen to me again. Okay, number one. First of all, contemplate. Number one. Where are you in comparison to Allah? That's why you read Munajat of Imam Ali. Antal Mawla wa anal abd. Wa hal yarhamul abda illal Mawla. You are the master, I am the slave. Who will have mercy on the slave except the master? So my first place is to understand that the only one who can answer my dua is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I must place myself in that position. There must be this humility. Number two, pray as though you are drowning. You can't, it's really sad sometimes. I'm talking about me, not you. Dua al-Qumel. Beautiful dua. Yet we find when it's been recited on a Thursday, it's become so much of a habit that nobody even cries. We are telling Allah, Ya Allah, even if you put me in hellfire, I will still cry out, I love you. Isn't that something to cry for? So many things in there. So when you pray, and you pray in your own language, pray right from the bottom of your heart as though you're really thirsty and you want water now. Okay? Always sandwich your dua with salawat. Always. If you put something in the middle of a sandwich, unless you're picky and you're picking off the bread because you don't have carbs, as you eat the two bits of bread, you will eat the middle, won't you? If Allah accepts the salawat beginning at the end, He's going to accept the middle as well. It's quite sneaky, but do that. It's a beautiful story because I've got young people here about the Prophet sitting with Imam Ali and there was a bee buzzing around, okay? And the bee came near the Prophet's ear and he didn't go away like we do. The Prophet said to Imam Ali, he's telling you that he's got some honey waiting for you. So Imam Ali goes and gets this honey. And whilst that, the Prophet's having a conversation with the bee. He says, tell me, how do you make this pollen that when I taste it, it is so bitter? How do you make it sweet? He's telling the bee. And the bee said, simple, Ya Rasulullah. I recite 3 salawats. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Never ever think this salawat is something small. In my khutbah, I recite the ayah of Surah Al-Ahzab, Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Allah and His angels send salawat on the Prophet. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. We are saying this is the only act Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is the only act we do that Allah does. We can say, I do what Allah does. If you are in any sort of trouble and you have nothing else to recite, you don't know duha, you don't know inshira, recite salawat continuously. We undermine it because we have made it so general as such, because it's become a habit. Okay?
Ya Rasulallah.
Ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Right, number 4, raise your hands in dua. You know, I'm a khoja, and we do dua like this. You're supposed to raise your hands like that. Raise, ask. Allah never, never, never sends a hand back empty. If I were to come to you just now, and you had just simple tabarruk in your hands, and I said, give me, would you not give me some? Then do you think that Rabbul Alameen would not grant me? And then, you know what, besides kunut in salah, when you've raised your hands, put it over your face. Did not your grandma teach you that? Why? So that what he gives you, the barakah, is put over yourself. It's phenomenal. So, raise your hands. Number 5, use a wasila. We have such beautiful wasilas with us. You know, even the people of Musa, you can look it up, Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 160. When they wanted water, I'm not going to go through the ayat because I don't have much time. So, when they wanted water, they went to Musa. What did Allah tell Musa? Musa, strike the rock. Take your staff and strike the rock. What happened? فَانْفَجَرَتْ, the rock opened. 12 streams of water came out for the 12 tribes of Bani Israel. They could have said, Ya Allah, give us water. Allah would have sent rain down. So when anybody says, don't do wasila, hello, look at the Quran. Okay? Ask for, we have so many wasilas. We're blessed. Okay? Number 6, do istighfar. Whenever the companions were sitting with Imam Ali, and somebody said, we need problem with sons or children and not listening. Somebody came and said, problem with our farms. Somebody said, we've got problem with risks, business, all the rest of it. To each one he said, say astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Go do istighfar. When people went away, the companion says, Ya Ali, these are different illnesses and you are giving one prescription. Right? He says, haven't you read Surah An-Nur? Read Surah An-Nur, ayah 10 to 12. He starts, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا. He says, do istighfar to your Rabb, he is ghaffar. And if you go further, it says, he will give you water from the skies, he will give you your children, he will sort them out, he will give you gardens which will have streams flowing. All because I did istighfar. Makes a difference. Number 7, cry. Don't we say in Dua Kamel, وَسِلَاهُ الْبُقَى. We cry. You know, even Dua al-Arafah, when Bashar and Bishr, their 2 brothers who were listening to Imam Hussein, he was weeping when he read Dua al-Arafah. So cry. Cry to him. Whenever you're doing dua, it should come from there. The Prophet said, make a pause. Don't hurry things up. And when the companions asked him, what does that mean? He said, that means after you've done dua, don't expect the answer right now. If it comes, it will come. But the answer will always come. Have sabr. Make a pause. Include others in your dua. So when you're asking for something, make sure you include others in it. There's a hadith which says that when you extinguish the fire of distress of one person, Allah extinguishes 100,000 fires of yours. It's phenomenal. Get together. When you sit together and you do dua, it's phenomenal. When I sit with the children, I tell them, look to your right and look to your left. Ask dua for them and Allah will fulfill yours. You can look at this in Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 28. Okay? Include Ism A'zam. Ya Allah, Ya Rabbi. These are simple words that we can use. Sadaqah. Give sadaqah. You know, the Prophet said, Da'watu sa'il la turaddu. The dua of one who asks you, Allah will never return that dua. So give sadaqah, make sure it gets there. Dua of another believer, my goodness, that just works phenomenally because it's a sinless tongue. Their body or themselves have not committed your sins. So when they pray for you, things work like magic. A place is very important. Remember Zakaria? We talked about him. When did he do dua? When he went to the mihrab of Maryam, he sees fruit And he sees, my goodness, fruit out of season and fruit in her mihrab. Quran says, هُنَالِكَ دَعَا زَكَرِيَّا. He did dua there and then. We are sitting on a farsh where duas are accepted. Just raise your hands and do dua. Direction is important as well. So towards Qibla, really, really important. Now, these are some of the things that make dua completely bulletproof. So let's start again. There were 4 sections to the surah. The first section was oaths. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. You're good with that. Early morning when the sun is bright, but it's soothing, and night when it is still. You need both. Now Allah gives a guarantee that your dua and my dua and the Prophet's dua will be accepted. He tells him, and I love this ayah. It's my favorite. All of them are. Anyway. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا كَلَى. It's so beautiful. Do you know what wida means? In Urdu, wida means goodbye. Right? Wadda means to say goodbye to somebody you love very, very much. When my mother was alive, I used to go and visit her almost every month. And I remember I used to go on a Friday night sometimes and come back on a Sunday. She lived in the States. And when I used to leave, and I took my suitcase, I remember she would say, please don't go. So I would take my suitcase back and I said, Mama, I'm not going. And then she would say, no, you have to go back to your children. And we would have that exercise for half an hour. And then she would say, bas, go. And tears would flow down her eyes and I would think, what am I doing? Why am I going away? That's wadda. Ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma kala. It's really soft language. Allah is saying, is emphasizing, I am not saying goodbye to you, even in the nicest of ways. Qala. Qala is when you're unhappy with someone. When someone close to you, very close to you, has used you. In other words, your use is over now, and now they don't want you. Normally when you get old, that's what people do. Sorry. Way of life. When you get very old, your children think, oh God, that old woman again. That is qala. They don't know how to get rid of you, and they have to keep you, and they're upset because you're nagging. That's qala. Ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala. Allah is saying, no, I am not saying goodbye in a beautiful way with you, and neither have I even got here. You haven't even outlived your usefulness. Don't worry. Because the Prophet was anxious. Why nothing? We are anxious. No dua. Whenever you know results to my dua, read this. Ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala. It's a guarantee from him. Walal akhiratu khayrun laka minal ula. What is to come is so much better than what has gone past. It is amazing, okay? So what will come will always be better. Don't worry, it's hard times. The harder the times, the better the result will come, okay? وَلَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. And Allah will soon give you that which will make you incredibly happy. Incredibly happy. Your goal will be achieved. Question, do you have a goal? When the dua goes like tawassul and they say hajat, what do you ask for? Do you have a macro goal and a micro goal? So ask for your shoelaces as well. Ask for the matching scarf as well. But also ask for the macro goal. Your aim must be up there. What do you want in life? Okay? So here, the second section is a guarantee that He will listen. Now, normally when people give me a guarantee, I say, what's the proof? Proof of the pudding, right? So what do you do on Google? You look at people's reviews, don't you? How people have used the product and what happened. So He's saying, let me remind you, Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa. Did I not find you an orphan and gave you shelter? Ma'wa. Ma'wa is a place of comfort, somewhere where you get refuge when you're in danger. The Prophet is told, weren't you not an orphan? Did we not give you some shelter? He's telling you and me, were you not helpless when you were a child? Did I not give you parents or grandparents or people to look after you? Did they not raise you to where you are now? That's what they did. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. Now translation is, and we found you lost and we guided you. The Prophet wasn't lost. But the Prophet was wondering, how will I reach my responsibility? How will I be able to transmit this Quran. For you and me are saying, how will I reach my dua, what I want? How will I reach my goal? He says, you will. I will grant you that. I will grant you hidayah. I will definitely take you there. In the Prophet's case, read it in another way. You didn't know, he's telling the Prophet, how people will find you. Look how they found you. Okay, next one. وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. He found you in need. You were burdened with weight. He removed that weight from you. Every single mission in life needs finance. It needs somebody who will support you. Somebody who's a mountain that you can lean on. Not only financially, but also somebody who will encourage you, will be there for you. So he's telling him, did I not give you Khadija? Did I not give you Ali? See who I gave you. And he's telling you and me, have I not given you the Quran? Have I not given you the community? Have I not given you the Masumeen? It's absolutely phenomenal. I will go for a step further. Did I not make you Q Husseini? Right? So the third part of this section was a reminder of what he has done for us. Now, this what it does, it creates an environment in which we can flourish, in which our dua can be answered. So now he's saying, your instructions. Now you see what I do for you. Now I've given you a guarantee. I need you to do something. So the last three. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. When you see an orphan is not only who's lost mom and dad. An orphan is someone who has no one, who doesn't have a shelter. When you see an orphan, don't make them feel worthless. Don't make them feel insignificant. Give them the confidence to be able to raise themselves. Okay? Because you were like that and we raised you. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. And when somebody asks you, don't make them feel like they're in a river of abuse. Nahar is river, isn't it? It's like you're sitting in a river and somebody's saying again and again and again. When I was talking to the children, I said, when they are young, they ask their parents 100 questions, and their parents answer with patience every single time. Now, when you get older, and you're trying to ask your children about one of these gadgets, and you say, how do you do this? And they say, well, press this and this and this, and it's done. And you ask them again, and they say, but I just told you. You say, yeah, but how? And they say, but this, da, like that. Have you seen that? And you say, excuse me, I don't understand. And we do that. When somebody asks us something, we get annoyed. And we say, why are you asking me such questions again? And here you're told, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Not even asking those sort of questions, but maybe even asking financially. Don't throw them away. Don't. In Gujarati we say, Fool ne to fool ni pankri. If you can't give, explain to them why you can't give. If someone asks you for knowledge, if somebody asks you financial help, don't just turn them away. And then finally he says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Now, whatever Allah has given to me, share. Now that could mean a lot of things. But to me, if you look at this, it's a list of favors. It's saying mention to them where you were and where Allah brought you. Give them the confidence to know that du'as will always be answered. So you look at the life of the Prophet, you see where he was and where he got to. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to summarize this surah for you, okay? But before that, I need you to read it with me. It's going to take me 2 minutes, but you're going to read it with me. Go on, loudly. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما كلا وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Jazakumullah. So let's look at it. So the opening tells me, the first 2 ayat, the first section tells me, just as coming of revelation is necessary, gaps are necessary. The second section tells me, it removes any sort of sadness. It gives me hope. It gives me optimism. So first section, just as there's revelation, there needs to be gaps as well. Second section, it gives me optimism. The third section gives me enough reasons to be optimistic of the past. In the third section, I want you to remember 3 words: awa, hada, and aghna. Right? So you shelter, guidance, and sustenance. Tell me in life, what do you need to progress? Shelter, guidance, and sustenance. That's all you need. And it says, we provided you protection, guidance, and sustenance. And finally, when you've understood that, you must focus on being a source for hope to others. That's what your life is all about. If you can't give, be a source of hope. Somebody who can come to you. Be a person who's a go-to person. People can come to you. It doesn't have to be money. It could be absolutely anything. Okay, so are you good with the surah? We understand it? Are you sure? Okay, go back over it again. Surah number 93, 4 sections. First section, the oaths, duha and layl. Second section, optimism. He will always, always, always give you success in your du'as. But you need to know what your du'a is. You really need to know. You need to work out. Even if you do nothing during the month of Muharram, find out what is your goal in life. Third section, there is a reminder. Look what we did for you. We only have to look at our past. Look where we were and look where we are. And finally, focus on being a hope to other people. Are we good with that? Okay, so now we go to a phenomenal personality. Okay, I'm going to talk about him a little bit so we understand. Very often in the past, we used to confuse Qasim with Hassan Muthanna. Imam Hassan had another son called Hassan. His name was Hassan as well. Hassan Muthanna means the second Hassan. Hassan was married to Fatima, who was the daughter of Imam Hussein. Sometimes in the past, because history happened a long time ago, we got so mixed up, we married Qasim to her. This was her Babi, if you say it in Urdu, okay? So we got a little bit mixed up, but that's okay. So let me just talk a little bit about Hassan Muthanna. He was in Karbala. He fought. But on the day of Ashura, he was injured so badly, they left him for dead. However, he was unconscious. And the next day, he opened his eyes on the 11th, and there was a man in the army of Yazid called Asma. Asma was related to Khawla. Khawla was Hassan Muthanna's mother. And the Arabs have a tradition. If it's your family member, they will fight for you. They will keep you there. Okay? So he takes Hassan Muthanna with him to Kufa. He looks after him. He gets better. From the progeny of Hassan Muthanna is the family of Tabatab. The Tabatabais come from Hassan Muthanna. You've all heard of Allama Tabatabai. Where did he come from? From Hassan Muthanna, who was injured in Karbala, taken to Kufa, got better, and from his progeny comes these people. Okay? Now Imam Hassan also had a son called Qasim. My goodness. So let me take you to the day of Ashura. Qasim, in the morning of Ashura, finds himself playing with the ropes of a tent. He's just sitting there. He's fiddling around. He's very young. He's not very old. 11, 12, maybe 13. That's the age that is normally given. He's playing with his ropes. Mom comes out and says, this is the day to play with ropes? I sent you to your uncle. I told you to ask for permission to be a mujahid. Go. He says, when I go there, he says, no. When I come to you, you tell me to go there. What do you want me to do? And he's in tears. Now, the Zakirin tell us that he had a taweez or a letter around his neck. That's what they tell us. I'm reciting what they tell us. And mom says, go take that letter to Imam Hussein. So he goes to Imam and he gives the letter. And when he gives the letter, Imam kisses the letter. And he says, now I cannot refuse. Remember, this is the child who, when on the night of Ashura, the names of the shuhada are read, his name is not there. And he says, what about me? And Imam says, Qasim, what are your views on death? And we all hear this when he says, to me, death is sweeter than honey. And our ulama tell us, how can a child of that age, who as adults we fear death, tell us that? Well, we are told, for those who recognize Allah, Allah removes the veils from them and they see their place in Jannah. It's phenomenal. So that's why he says this. When Imam tells him, okay, I will let you go, he dresses Qasim up in tears. Again, like we heard about Aun and Muhammad, he puts an armor on him and he gives him a sword. And with Hazrat Abbas, they accompany this child to the battlefield. And they tell the child, watch us, we will give you orders. When the child comes out, Humayd ibn Muslim says that there was a man there who said, I will hurt the heart of Hussein by killing this child. And Humayd said, what has this child done to you? Umar ibn Sa'd tells a person called Azraq al-Shami, I need you to go and kill this person. Kill this child. And Azraq says, me? I am a soldier. You sending me to kill this child? To fight with this child? He says, I'm going to send my sons. History tells us that he sends all 4 of his sons. Qasim fights a formidable battle, and all 4 fall to the ground. Now Azraq is absolutely livid. He's lost 4 sons. I'd like you to imagine this. And he runs to the battlefield with his sword raised above his head. And with nothing, no warning, he hits this child on his head. The child cries out, Assalamu alayka, oh my uncle. Humayd ibn Muslim writes that Hussein swept onto the battlefield like an eagle when he did that. And he got to Azraq. Imam raised his sword on Azraq and he hit Azraq. Azraq screamed so much that the horses from one side ran to the other side, and the horses from the other side ran to one side. When the dust had settled, Imam sees this child on the ground. The child is scratching his toes on the ground. Imam says, my child, you called out to me and I could not help you, my child. Humayd ibn Muslim writes, there are many narrations, but he writes, I see Imam picking this child up. The horses had run over his body, and the body had elongated so much that his feet were dragging onto the ground. In some riwayah, we read that the body was torn to pieces, and Imam had to pick it up. Imam takes the child, and he puts him near Akbar. He puts his hands on both of them and he says, Ya Rabbal Alameen, Hussein is deprived of his sons. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.